first, before I get into what I do on my internship, the education I had throughout my whole high school. So freshman and sophomore year in my high school, it was just your standard high school. You go into a classroom, you get a lecture, they give you homework, you take tests, and you get a grade. Me personally, I got very bored throughout, and I just really thought schooling wasn't for me. I wasn't passionate at all. But I want to show you these two photos. This is the class of 1924 on your left, and the class of 2024 on your right. They're just pictures. One's black and white, one's colored. What's really the difference? Well, starting in my junior year, I joined the Met Professional Academy, and I don't think I've ever been passionate about education throughout my life, but this is what sparked it. Instead of sitting us down in a lecture, I think I was standing up more, going out in the field, doing real world based projects more often than actually sitting down. So with this, what the Met does is they take a lot of professionals, as Justin previously stated, and they become business partners of our program. Sometimes they spend an hour a week, sometimes you have a mentor that spends an hour a month with you, and even just a guest speaker, an hour just that whole year. But with this, I started to realize, hey, this is a really cool program. I took engineering 1 and 2, my freshman and sophomore year too, and it was nothing like this. So whenever my dad came to me with the program, I was like, dude, like the engineering programs I've done before, I haven't really been interested in, but this interested me. So you'll see right here, that's my father, Lemka, and that's him. That's a group of Met students networking with him. We went to the TMC of Peoria when he was working with the city of Peoria, and he started showing us everything. And I've never had an experience like this in my life. He showed us what they do on a day-to-day basis. They showed us all the cool technology, and I was mind blown. I was like, man, I thought your job was lame. But even though you're a nerd, it's pretty cool. I'll admit. Maybe I take after him, but who knows. But then, on top of that, instead of this just them coming to us, telling us what they do for their job, showing us insight, they then sometimes assign us projects that they are currently working on and mentor us throughout it. They don't just give us all the information, they give us more of a guideline. Here's some manuals to look at, so on. And they have us do a real world-based project. I did this my junior year, and my project was studying the intersection 83rd Avenue and Hillcrest Boulevard for the first semester, creating a TSWA, and then the next semester, designing its signal. But then with these, we're able to present to these professionals, show them we're passionate about it, and show them, hey, we may be high school students, but we can perform at a professional level. So now going into what I do, for Greenlight Traffic Engineering, I've done about 3 different components within the traffic realm. I've done studies, which are your TISs, traffic impact statements, TII, traffic impact analysis. I've done designs, traffic signals, and I'm actually gonna start a Buckeye road guiding design soon, which will be pretty cool. And my dad just threw that on me. He was like, hey, there you go. And then next, I've also dipped my toes a little bit within the safety study realms. I've done one with one of my coworkers, and I'll explain about that later. But really what got me into this was one of those projects. And that was, of course, the Friday project of studying that intersection and designing its signal. So to go on what I do at my job, you have to remember I am still a senior in high school, but the first thing I do is traffic analysis, traffic impact studies, so on. So with this, I started off learning what a trip generation is, and this was through the ITE Trip Generation 11th edition manual. Alyssa Witten, who took me on as an intern, started walking me through the ropes and showed me, hey, this is the foundation for a traffic study. She said, usually standard, it's all depending on the agency, but usually if it has 100 or more, you will have a traffic impact analysis for that to show the impacts of the roadway. And then if it's under 100, usually they just want a traffic statement. However, I've also seen, I'm not sure if it's Pima or Pinal, but they have like, or Mojave, I think it's Mojave County. It's the 75 threshold. But basically, I've learned that we use a traffic impact analysis when any development wants to be developed, but it's zoned not for what they want to develop. So let's say it's currently zoned for a residential area, but they want to do commercial. We need to send this to the city to say, hey, if they do commercial here, the traffic isn't going to be bad, and if it is, how can we mitigate that? So going on to the trip generation, she started me off with the program, or I guess the website, but we usually use in Excel to do our due diligence. So she started off with telling me about the different land uses, talking about the rezoning as I stated before, showed me that there's codes that if you're very brilliant and you can remember 900 codes, then there you go. But for me, usually there's more general ones we use every option, so if you do remember them, it's a nice, easy thing to input. But then from there, you have your different units. Most of the time, the units are about 1,000 square foot, depending on what wants to be developed, but they're also like, let's say a school wants to be developed. They want to know how many students are going to be there to base the trips. Let's say a gas station wants to be developed. How many vehicle viewing positions are going to be there? And then to the left, you just put the number for how many units there are. So then you get your AM peak hour calc and your PM peak hour calc, which you usually study on every report. Sometimes it's different depending on when it opens, so on. But with these, they want to see the hours of the days that generate the most traffic, because throughout the day, if we have mitigations for when it does have the most traffic, then it'll perform at a sufficient level. So then she talked to me about all the equations, taught me how to use these, and then you also have your average daily traffic count, which shows on average how many cars are there going to be that day. So then we get all of our totals, all of the cars. This one had a lot of different things that we wanted to develop, so there was 5 different things that we had to take into consideration, and it came out to actually a lot of trips. I think about 1,000 each, so pretty decent amount. But then from there, she went on to trip generation and started teaching me how to use softwares. I personally use Bistro a lot. I like the looks of it. I know Synchro is very well used, and I know a little bit about it, but Alyssa wanted to start me within Bistro. So within Bistro, she started telling me about all the different things you had to input. I looked at it and I was scared for my life. Like, there's so many things. But once you start getting more and more used to it, then you're like, oh, this is not that bad. So she started off like, hey, first we look at the geometry of the roadway, then we put in the speed limits, we put in the projected growth of it, all of that. And then once you have all of that inputted, you're able to create different scenarios. How's it gonna look in the existing year? How's it gonna look when it opens with that place, total site? How's it gonna look when it opens without the place, non-site? 5 years in the future, 10, 15, so on. And then it gives you a level of service. And with that level of service, it's based on a delay. So on average, how long are you gonna wait for each movement? And if it's not performing at a sufficient level, so like let's say in F, it goes A through F, then there's mitigations we have to take. Maybe a new turn lane, maybe how long is that turn lane, so on. So then that's mostly what I do for my traffic studies. Green Light has thrown so many at me, I can't even count anymore. I think I just performed like 3 traffic statements yesterday, so it was pretty fun. But then the next part of the job I do is the design portion. And really, this is what got me into traffic engineering, signal designs. I started off in the program AutoCAD, and I currently use Civil 3D, but same thing. So with this, they started to teach this to me from a second-year student who was a TA for Justin at the time, and he taught us the basics of AutoCAD and showed us, hey, this is how you draw lines, this is all the different features, layers, so on. But then these professionals taking their time, as the mentor Keith Kaprowski of Y2K, spent an hour with me each month. Alyssa spent an hour a week, but not just in AutoCAD, showing technical terms too. Chris Lemka, who was with City of Peoria at the time, he showed me not really AutoCAD skills, because of course I'm better than him at that, but he showed me how to do stationing, how to do scaling, all that stuff, all the technical terms you need to create a plan set. So the Friday project I had going through my junior year was, of course, the intersection 83rd and Hillcrest Boulevard. Through the whole experience, I was able to create so many things I didn't think I would get to. So the first one was the actual traffic signal sheet. We start off with the main area, the main overview look. How is the whole traffic signal gonna look? But then Alyssa taught me that usually you'll split up into corners too, to show a more closer scale to each of the corners within the intersection. And then you start calling out the different conduits, the different equipments within the area. And then also you will have your construction notes, pole box notes, so on, with all the stationing. And then throughout the whole process of this, just 1 year, I learned how to create this part of the plan set with also the cover page. But not just this, I also learned how to create an equipment schedule. Previously, before, we called out all the equipment. So Alyssa showed me, hey, this is how you call out all the individual parts on a pole. So she showed me, usually you have an overview, the spacings of the heads, the phasing of each of them, and then you'll go on to the call outs. What type of pole are we using? What type of heads do we use? Because not all heads are the same. Sometimes we have 3, 5, so on. And then you go into the remarks, which is, I always think of it like a Lego. How is the pole gonna be built at each corner? And then finally the stationing, which just calls out the exact location that this pole is gonna be, or where the pole is gonna be built. So then, this is the main components I've learned. I've also learned the striping, which I'll go into later. But after I started my internship, the city of Peoria, they had a training on how to do a conductor schedule. So I'll let you know, I started my internship June 2023. Hasn't even been a year yet, so I'd say I have a year, almost 2 years within the traffic realm. But they also taught me how to do a conductor schedule with this training, which I think is insane. I almost know how to do a full plan set, and I'm not even in college yet. So the first thing they showed us was, first you'll have on top the conduit you're calling out. This is on the traffic signal sheet, and then below that, the size of each conduits. Not all of them are gonna be the same. Sometimes they need more wires, so they're gonna be thicker. So sometimes they're 2 inches, sometimes they're 3, so on. And then right here, you'll have the equipment on the traffic signal, which one you're calling out. And then from there, you'll basically line them up. So you'll take which conduit, which equipment it is, and then you'll say, this is how many wires needs to go to this. And in general, all this is telling the contractor is how the signal is gonna be wired so that I can get power and there's no flaws with it and so on. So then going back into my junior year, I then was also taught how to do striping. Leah, who's right there, did this part, but I kind of sat beside her and looked throughout because I also wanted to learn how to do this. Traffic was my passion. So Alicia showed us different things such as how to design the striping for the area. Like this is the crosswalk with the stop bar. Then how do you call it out? Because not each striping is gonna have the same. This one, we use a 12-inch solid white line. At the top, you'll see there's an 8-inch solid white line. Then sometimes you'll have double yellows, so on. And then we went on to the signing portion, which is whenever you design a signal, sometimes you need to take out signs, put in new signs, relocate signs. This one right here, it was an existing bike symbol sign, but since the traffic signal we're gonna develop was gonna interfere with it, we had to relocate it. And we just generally went through that, and at the end, I was able to create a plan set my junior year and present it to different professionals that didn't have an ITE splice diagram, it didn't have all the civil plans, it didn't have a conductor schedule, but it had the traffic signal sheet, the equipment schedule, the signing and striping sheet, the cover sheet, so on. So it was up to professional standards, and it was about a 60% plan. So then, going on to the last part of what I do within my internship is safety studies. The slides are a little laggy, so if I click and it holds, sorry about that. But I did a safety study with one of my coworkers, Josh Parger, who specializes in safety. He wanted to take me out to the field to look at an intersection and really show me some of the things. And we looked at this intersection, Occidental Avenue and Elliott Avenue, because we got a complaint. And they said it was really dangerous, cars were turning at fast speeds, they almost got hit. So we went out to look at what was really going on. I didn't think much of it, but then he started pointing out individual things, and I was like, dang, dude, this intersection was not performing well. So the first thing I really want to bring to your attention is, I thought it was just a regular T intersection, but it is so that the right-of-way of cars is on that turn. There's a stop bar over here, and that's the yield at this T intersection, which is a little off, right? Usually it's just a straight direction, so why would they turn? And I believe that's why a lot of cars were turning at high speeds without looking, because that was their right-of-way direction. But then we also looked at several different things within this section. One thing being this crosswalk. They have one crosswalk at the area where the stop, a little bit pushed back from the stop bar, and I thought it was a normal crosswalk until we started measuring it with a little roller tool. I thought it was fun to use. But with the roller tool, we measured that it was 6 feet width, and where Josh was like, usually the minimum's 10 feet, And so this is one thing we gave to them. We're like, hey, the crosswalks aren't really standard, so something to fix. But then the next thing we saw was the stop sign. I don't know, it's really hard to see, but that stop sign is placed towards the middle of the intersection. And usually you want it towards the approach, or not the middle, towards the end of the approach. And with that, you can also see that stop bar in that photo is really fading. And so I'll give a testimonial. We saw a cop car blow through it, and we're just like, whoa, that is, I don't know. But this was another thing we gave to them. We're like, hey, the stop sign is not really in a good position. Your stop sign's faded, not people can see it. So then the next thing we looked at was the fire lane signs. And I'll tell you, the sun was beaming at the time, and since it's so faded, it's just white. So I looked into it and I just got blasted by the sun. I was like, oh my God. But then all the fire signs were like this. I think it was because it's pretty old, but we told them, hey, your fire sign's very faded, you may need to reinstall that. But look at the curb too. Usually when there's a fire lane or a fire area, you want the curb to be painted red, and so that's another recommendation we give to them. And then another thing we noticed is with this girl, you can see, she was mid-block crossing. And we noticed very often that that crosswalk wasn't used, and people, that was the main area people wanted to cross with that intersection. And so we're like, hey, maybe switch up, instead of having that right away, have the right of way be the straight, put a stop sign right there, put a crosswalk right there, because that's what people are really using. We also saw bicyclists just blowing through everything, so it was fun. But yeah, it was a really good experience for me. I was able to learn a lot about safety too within roadways, because what's the main job of traffic engineering? We want to create safer roadways, and through some of these, honestly, I didn't think it was safe. I'd be scared making that turn. And so it was a really good experience for me. But to summarize everything up, I've touched about 3 things under a year within my internship: studies, designs, safety studies. And with this, I just want to say I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I'm going to be going to college soon, and I'm going to NAU, Northern Arizona University. And I'm pursuing a bachelor's, and if you really think about it, by the time I graduate, if green light keeps me, hopefully, pray, but if green light keeps me, I'll have 5 years of work experience graduating. How many people do you know graduating with a bachelor's have 5 years? That would be pretty impressive, right? Now, I just want to end off with a call to action and tell you that I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for these professionals taking the leap of faith to really help me out. Yeah, it's really impressive I'm doing all of this, but it's the professionals who inspired me, built my passion, and got me to a foundation where I am right now. So thank you.